Okay. Can you start a podcast with me, please? I need something to do.
Pastrnak sent it out in front of Malkin to save. They score! Elias Lindholm looks to the heavens.
Here's a chance. Patra right in on goal. He scores. Oh my! What a move by the rookie.
2-on-1. Pastrnak moving in with Marchand. Get it to it. Score!
The zone. Coyle dances in. Backhand score!
Lindholm right wing corner. Pastrnak is there. He scores! David Pastrnak wins it for Boston.
Welcome in, everyone, to another episode of Bruins Tape to Tape. You are listening to tonight's episode on June 18th. I will be your host tonight. I am Maria from Watertown, and I'm going to welcome in my co-host, Caroline with a K. Welcome back, my friend. Always good to see you.
Hi. Let's talk about these youngins.
Yep. Well, tonight we're going to continue with our player profiles. We've been focusing on our trade deadline acquisitions. And tonight's featured player will be old friend Jakub Lauko. And I know many of us were very excited to have Jakub back in the fold, as he started originally as a Boston Bruin. He was drafted by the Boston Bruins in the third round, 77th overall in 2018, and he came back to us as part of the Bruins house cleaning that they did during the trade deadline.
Yeah.
And I'm not really quite sure what happened with Jakub for his first go round with the Bruins, but I will say that I myself was very impressed with his hockey acumen, for lack of a better word. I mean, he's got good speed. He worked hard. I think he was extremely excited to come back to Boston.
Yep.
And, he turned out to be, relatively productive. But again, we're going to couch all of this talk when we are talking about statistics for each of these players with the simple phrase that overall the Bruins sucked last season.
They were terrible.
And it is extremely, I think, might be a little bit unfair to be judging especially what these players who came in at the trade deadline were able to accomplish. Because I at that point, let's call a spade, the season was over, right?
Yes.
The Bruins had thrown in the towel. Right. So hard to gauge fully.
Yes.
And completely what these newer players were bringing to the organization.
Yeah. Especially considering they brought in so many young players too. I mean, how much can, a 25-year-old bring to the table unless his name was Sidney Crosby or Connor McDavid?
Right.
At that age, they were doing phenomenal things.
Right.
These guys aren't that.
And it's hard for us to determine or assess, do these players fit in on this roster? Will they fit in on this roster? Because we don't know what this roster is going to fully look like. We might not know what this roster fully looks like until, sometime in July.
Yep.
And we don't even know who the coach will be and what type of system or structure said new coach and his or her staff will be bringing to this roster. But be that as it may, I like this player. And I like I like his work ethic. That's what I
Mhm.
look at on the ice, right? You're trying to make plays. You're keeping your feet moving. You're trying to do the right things with
Yes.
the puck.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I agree.
And
I'm so glad that he's back.
yeah, and again, one of the many criticisms that we heard this
Yep.
season was, the Bruins lacked speed. They never went out and did anything about, replacing the speed that Jake DeBrusk brought to the team. But
Yep.
I think Lauko can fit the speed aspect of it.
Yep. Yep.
The offensive aspect of it might be a different story, but that depends on his usage.
Right.
Where are you going to be putting him in, top line minutes for, I don't think so. I don't think so.
Yeah. Yeah. So Lauko,
And I'll
we'll
let
give it.
you, because you're our stats person.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
you-
yeah. Well, why don't you do, before we dive into the stats?
All right. So he's a
Yeah,
restricted
give us
free
a
agent.
rundown.
Right. He is a restricted free agent, which comes with the difference between restricted and unrestricted is an unrestricted free agent can do and go wherever the hell they want. They can sell themselves to basically the highest bidder. And they've earned the right to do that, which is why they are unrestricted free agents. A restricted free agent comes with arbitration rights. So you kind of sort of still belong to the Boston Bruins. They can take you to arbitration, or they can, sign you to an offer. So there is a semblance more of control for the team than for the player.
Yeah. Right. And he being an RFA with arbitration rights, I mean, he does have a little bit more say in the matter. There are players who are restricted free agents who do not have arbitration rights. And in that case, they are completely, at the mercy of their team. So he's also another left-handed center. How many of those have we come across this so far this month?
They have, the first three that we have spoken about.
Yes.
Aren't they left-handed
centers?
Yeah.
Left-handed centers. Again, love this guy. He's definitely been, for the last couple of years, I believe he was used in the same way in Minnesota last season. He's, the last 3 years or so, he's been fourth line minutes. I do wonder if again he were developed properly, making the assumption that
$1 million
never
question.
do that.
Yeah.
Could he ever play higher up? I don't know. I have a harder time kind of evaluating that. Certainly, Professor Mo would know the answer to that question. But his individual points percentage, again, 71.4. So when
Not
he's
too
been out
shabby.
on the ice, for every 10 goals that the Bruins scored, he touched 7 of them when he was, on the ice for them. So that's not bad. And I think it's actually really good. I think his speed has a lot to do with it. He's just has the ability to get where he needs to go as fast as possible. He certainly is one of our lower Corsi 4 percentage players, in that he really doesn't shoot that puck at 39.5%. But
He'll fit right in on this Bruins roster.
Yeah, exactly. He might be, with his speed combined with that particular statistic, I kind of wonder if maybe he has the ability to fill in as more of a playmaker, which is certainly, again, a role that was left vacant with the departure of Jake DeBrusk. Obviously, the biggest difference between those two players being Jake DeBrusk, certainly for all of his ups and downs, probably objectively a better player, but he's also older. He's been around longer. So, maybe we can't compare them apples to apples, but he certainly also doesn't really get used very much. Again, talking about the player usage statistic and comparing how he's, being used and how frequently he's getting sent out there. Of all of our, trade acquisitions and trade departures, he has the lowest player usage statistics. When comparing him to competition, he's in the 9th percentile for minutes for forwards. On the Bruins, he's essentially in the bottom 20th percentile. I think that's like as low as you could possibly get for forwards. So I don't know. And again, these statistics aren't just from when he returned to Boston. This is for the whole year. So who knows? I don't know much about the coach for Minnesota, what their system was, how he was being used out there. In Boston, was he being used as frequently as he could have or should have been? Hard to say. Again, there was so much noise with this particular season.
Yeah, so
really
much
hard to
turmoil,
tell.
so much. So much inconsistency. Again,
Right.
If I can't even imagine how anybody was assessing anything that was going on with the team this season.
Right. There was just a lot of garbage that everyone had to deal with. Both the players, us as fans, being able to pay attention to the final 20 games while we were all in deep mourning. But I know what I have seen from this player in his previous 2 seasons in Boston, and I was always very pleased. So I would hope, as he is now 25 years old, he's about to turn 26. Hopefully he's starting to really hit his stride. And again, with some stability on the team, we know he looks up to David Pastrnak for leadership and guidance, and Pasta taking on this more leadership role. Hopefully can kind of build on that. He had a great world championship tournament as well, even though Czechia, was knocked out earlier. He was very successful there, had some goals. So again, another Bruin out there having a great end of the season, going into the summer, and hopefully he just brings that back, not just to the locker room, but also on the ice, because we know that I wouldn't go so far as to call him a personality hire, because he does have a lot to contribute. But he's definitely got a job off the ice as well as on the ice. And I think that's why I also personally like this player, because of what he brings to the team in that.
And, with the number of players and the amount of leadership that was dispelled at the trade deadline, seemed to make sense to be able to bring someone back who had some familiarity with, the organization and, the playing philosophy or the playing structure. I'm curious to ask you, though, what would you offer him for a deal?
Well,
what do you think he might be looking
is
for?
Still, actually, even though he was coming from, so he's coming to the end of a 2-year, RFA deal that was signed by Don, between him and Don. So he left and came back, and he's still under the same contract terms.
All right, Bruins fans, if you're thinking about picking up some new gear, now's the time.
I'm already planning to grab a fresh Pasternak jersey this fall. Who knows? Maybe he's rocking a new letter on the front. The NHL shop is running tons of season-ending and summer sales right now, including 20% off Fanatics gear. And here's the best part. When you shop through our link in the show notes, a portion of your purchases helps support this podcast. Same gear you'd find at the pro shop, but with way better perks. So stock up, save big, and help keep Bruins Tape to Tape rolling all year long.
The fastest game on the ice just hit another gear. Welcome to the Stanley Cup playoffs, where legends are made and every shift could turn the tide. And now, with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL, you can take every slap shot, breakaway, and overtime thriller to the next level. New to betting on the Stanley Cup playoffs? You're in for an exciting time. Getting started is a breeze. Fire up the DraftKings Sportsbook app, pick your team to win, lock in your wager, and you're off to the races. It's fast, simple, and puts you right in the middle of the action. Don't have a dog in the fight? It's easy to pick an anytime goal scorer who's going to score the game-winning goal in overtime. It's just that simple. Here's the kicker. New customers who bet just $5 will score $300 in bonus bets if their wager hits. That's right. Turn $5 into a playoff payout. Just download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use promo code THPN. That's promo code THPN to unlock $300 in bonus bets when your $5 bet wins. Only at DraftKings Sportsbook. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 and over, age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in New Hampshire, Oregon, and Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/ftball. NFL Plus Premium offer available only to new and former NFL Plus subscribers. Additional NFL Plus Premium terms at nfl.com/terms.
So he was at league minimum wage, $7.87.5.
Yeah.
Basically. You know, I think, look, this is where I'm going to struggle a little bit, and I'm going to take full ownership of the fact that, again, because I personally enjoy him as a player, I'm like, well, obviously he should make more money because I like the guy.
No, I agree on bumping up the pay.
Right.
It's just
But
to what degree?
I think, honestly, what I think is ultimately going to happen is that because he played the second year of his contract, not with Boston. Big picture, Boston has a lot of business that they have to take care of in this offseason.
Yes.
I think that they are going to just offer him whatever they are like CBA,
whatever the CBA says they have to offer,
which is that, we're going to call it, for layman's terms, cost of living increase. So I think that's what he's going to get. It's probably fair. Again, me being a fan, I would obviously want to see him make a little bit more, but if I, make sure I put my analyst hat on, there isn't anything in the stats. Like, he's not bad, right? There's nothing that's red flags to me.
No,
run, don't walk, from this guy. But on the flip side, again, he doesn't, knock your socks off. Like, he didn't do anything in particular. But is this because it's the fact that he was underutilized? I don't know.
I know, but you can't, you can't prepay for that, right? So,
Right. Not for a player like him. So, he will be, so he's 25 years old. I think he's turning 26. So his next contract, he's going to be a UFA. This is going to be a big contract for him in the sense that this is going to be his shot to make something of himself. And again, like, I feel like a broken record, but when so much is unknown, the dynamics of the team with the coach, and how everything is handled and how everything's managed, this year is just going to be such an interesting season to see how people respond and react to everything that's happened in Boston. He wasn't there for the disaster season. He was there the year before when they, went and made it to the second round. Like, he's coming into this with a very different perspective, and hopefully he can keep that positive perspective going and do something with his season. But again, it's because of the position that he has typically played in the last couple of years, being that fourth line center. Is the coach going to use him enough for him to show that he's worth anything? I mean, I think he probably has more skill and can contribute more than Trent Frederick could. And yet Freddie had been given more time out on the ice for some unknown reason.
in some ungodly, bizarre scenario. Yeah.
In this case, my argument, if again, Trent Frederick being whatever, why put him out when you've got someone with speed and playmaking ability in Lauko? So, I think they're gonna keep him around. They're gonna.
But I wonder. You bring up something interesting. I wonder if Lauko had been a part of this roster from the beginning, might we have seen Mr. Frederick on the ninth floor?
No. Nah, because those idiot managers were just like, we have to play Trent Frederick for some ungodly reason.
Yeah, whatever. I mean, we digress. So, this particular player is interesting in terms of, if you want to keep them, do you do like a little bridge contract with him to say, hey, look, right? We'll give you, a couple of years at $1 million a year, $1 million per. That only brings you to age 27, 28. You're still young, right? The cap's, by all accounts, the cap's still going to keep going up with each passing year. So I would be amenable to something like that. If the Bruins have interest, you clearly need the speed, unless you're going to go find it someplace else in this free agency crop where it's really not awesome. It's not an awesome crop of free agents. You've got Sam Bennett.
You're going to see a lot more offer sheets this year.
Yeah, those are fun. I hope we do, because that's a nice dynamic. That makes it spicy. That makes the offseason a little spicy.
Drama.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, just thinking a little bit ahead of his potential, his career, players. So there's, you like to call them Jags, just another guy. Folks may also refer
and I know
to
I'm making the case for Jags, but they do serve a purpose. They do. Can't have them. But you just can't have them taking top line minutes. And I'm not talking about the first line. We all know what I'm talking about. That it is not a recipe for success in today's NHL.
Right. And so like, or you might call them, there are also the journeymen, so to speak, which sometimes they can be just another guy. Sometimes they can be a specialist and they have like just a very specific skill, and they, are brought onto a team for a small
Yep.
stretch of time for a
Right.
particular purpose, right? So if you think about like James Van Riemsdyk or Kevin Shattenkirk, some of those guys who have bounced around, they bounce around. That's what a journeyman is in this league, is they're going to play for 3, 4, 5 teams over the course of their career. And you typically are going to see a lot of those guys be in those bottom, 2, the bottom 6 players. And so again, you've got this 25-year-old where I just want to strangle this Bruins management and say, what are you doing with him? Because then are you stringing him along when if what he is a journeyman, which again, I still can't really quite tell because I don't think he's been used appropriately. If he
I don't
is
know
a
that I'd
journeyman-
call him a journeyman quite yet. I think at
No,
his
and
age, yeah.
Right. Because he's not been used, I think, in the right way. So I can't tell if he is one. But if he is, just because of the nature of where he's been playing, then why are you keeping him here? Why let him go and go on his journey and be on those different teams and have those different experiences and fill in, I don't know. And it just goes to show once again that you've got a management team that is struggling, incapable of having a longer term plan,
All
not
of the above,
for their players.
can you say?
So, and again, my enjoyment of this player could very well be coloring my opinion on the situation, but like they need to figure out what they want to do with him, because he has a lot to offer and he doesn't deserve to just kind of be, hanging around, I don't know. Those are my thoughts on Jakub Lauko.
Well, and I don't know if one should read anything into the fact that you had him, you let him go, and you brought him back. So,
right. Yeah.
Is your intent? I mean, there could be, and I know, when you assume, the old phrase of when you assume, you make an ass out of me and you. But can we presume that the intent is to keep this player around, even again if it's for a short-term bridge deal? But
who knows?
Time will tell, right? Time will tell. But I think we're both in agreement that he possesses a skill that the Bruins very much needed, which is speed. It's just a question of, okay, where are you going to utilize that speed? It shouldn't be number 1 line. It shouldn't be number 2 line. I don't know. Right. Because right now, these players that we have talked about up until this player, to me, have all been potentially, I would put them in, a 4th line situation. Now, Casey Middlestat, who we spoke about in our first episode, he might have a little bit higher threshold where he works his way up to higher minutes on a different, his ceiling. I have his ceiling up a little bit
there are
higher.
higher expectations.
Yes, I have his ceiling up a little higher, but
I would put Lauko, like if we're going to look at the first 3 that we've had, Lauko would kind of be in the middle in terms of my expectations. Not just because of his age, but because he's been a part of this team. Over Husnudinov. Yeah.
Well, and again, Hustadinov is still young. I mean, he's younger than Lauko, which we talked about him. So I mean, again, each of these players that we've spoke about thus far, Casey Middlestat, Marat Hustadinov, and Lauko, all have upside to them.
Yeah. Yep.
We'll go back to the recurring theme of, is that upside going to be nurtured and developed
Right.
appropriately by the Boston Bruins organization? Time will tell. Time will tell. So that will conclude our segment on Jakub Lauko. We will likely get a lot of answers to some of the questions we've asked or some of the thoughts that we've had come July 1, where there should be a frenzy, I would think, of activity.
Yep.
One would hope, at least from the side of the Boston Bruins anyway.
Yep.
Until then, we'll continue on with our assessments.
Yep. Absolutely. As always, make sure you like and rate and review and subscribe on YouTube, on your podcast platform of